Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about something a little bit more intense. So before we start, let's look at today's fan art. So this is today's fan art. I love how there's a mention of my tattoo, raised from the dead. And the facial expression is so done with everything, and you know what? I identify with that completely, so thank you so much for representing me the way I truly am. Anyways, I will link the artist in the description, per usual. Thank you so much for drawing this, and let's get on with the video. Okay, I'm wearing this shirt for the irony, by the way, like, don't read into it. Anyways, so this is the deal. I was a very well-behaved child and teenager. I never went through the wild phase. I never went through the I hate my parents phase. I did have a bit of a dark phase, but you know, I didn't do anything wild or anything. Anyways, once I took my gap year, when I was 19, that phase kind of happened a little bit late. And I believe that it's because I always behaved really well and I never did drugs. Like, I never even done weed at that point. I did very little underage drinking that I remember. Like, I drink maybe a Bacardi Breezer that has like, what, 4%? So I was very tame. But when I turned 19, I think the fact that I didn't have my usual structure of going to school, and I was going to a university to do Chinese, but it was only a couple hours a day and it was very chill. So it wasn't kind of like the school structure I'd been in, especially in my toxic school in China. So I was still in China during my gap year. And so I went to this party for New Year's, and it was at a friend of mine's house. And at one point he's like, hey, come into my room, I want to show you something, which I was like, the fuck, this is weird. It was a house party, obviously. And I go to his room and there was a pile of coke. And I was like, what the hell? I think that was like one of the first times I'd seen drugs, like hard drugs, up close. And I was like, what? And I'd had about 8 shots of absinthe, and I have a really high tolerance. So for me, that would make me just slightly tipsy, nothing wild. So I was like, you know what? What the fuck? Why the fuck not? Which is obviously poor decision making, but your girl was on a wild one. So I did it. I was super high. I stayed so high that I didn't sleep for 2 days and shook for 2 days and barely ate. Good times. And that night when we went out, this is an important thing, so remember this. My friend who had offered me the coke at one point said he needed to use my phone. At the time, I didn't know what it was for, but his phone had died, and in reality, he was calling his dealer from my phone. So the dealer now had my phone number, okay? Okay, so at this very same party, I end up meeting this guy who I think was like 14 years older than me or something like that, and we really like hit it off. He at one point asked for my number, and I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. I literally drank so much that night that I forgot that I'd even given him my number. I wasn't even drunk. It's just like when you're drinking from 9 in the evening until like 7 a.m. the next morning, you forget shit, especially since I got really high too, so whatever. About a week later, I get a text message from said guy, and we started seeing each other, and I obviously read into it, so this is totally my fault, like I'm not putting it on him. I read into it, like I grew quite attached because this was not my first relationship, because I don't count it as a relationship, but this was the first time that I was like seeing someone who was actually an adult and not just like a stupid high school boy who was a fuckboy. So yeah. Anyways, pretty much what ended up happening is that at one point he had to leave the country because he's like a big time LA editor. I found out like recently that he's actually a kind of important person, which was pretty shocking to me. And he was like, I have to go back to LA for a while, but I'll be back in a couple of weeks. I'll message you when I land. Of course, I never heard from him again. So I was ghosted, literally ghosted by leaving the country. Like, what level of ghosting even is that? Whatever. So I took that very badly. And let's also note that when I was seeing him, or like when we were going out on dates or whatever the fuck you need to call it, I was having a bit already of an eating disorder, but I was in the earlier stages. So in my earlier stages, I was eating very little and over-exercising. So once all that shit happened, I felt horrible, of course. I was still a virgin, so I think I was also very kind of maybe impressionable. And I stayed a virgin long after my wild phase, so I wasn't even all that wild in that way. And so my eating disorder started to kick up, and when I say that, I started binging and purging. And I was in a very dark phase, and it wasn't solely because of him, because I was already in a bit of a funk to begin with. That whole gap year, like the fact that I had an eating disorder happen like before him, it's just like after all that happened, it got worse. So one day I was just sitting at home, and I was having some suicidal thoughts. I was not well mentally, and I get a message, and this message comes from this drug dealer who I actually became pretty close friends with. Anytime I'd travel, I'd like buy stuff for his mom. And he had a hilarious name, but I don't want to say it in case. Anyways, I became quite close with this drug dealer. But anyways, I get a message from the drug dealer, and he's like, hey, so just wanted to let you know that if you need anything, I'm here. So it was kind of like, do you need anything? And I looked at that message and was just like, do I want to get something? And that was the first time in my life where I actually seriously contemplated getting drugs. Like, never before had it really been on my mind. And I was just like, you know what? Fuck it once more. Great decision making on my part. And I was like, yes, I'll buy 2 grams. Meet me at the bathroom of this place in downtown Shanghai, and let's just do the thing. So I went out with a friend of mine, and my friend didn't even know I was going to be meeting a drug dealer in the bathroom of the place we were at. So at one point I checked my phone, he's like, I'm here. So I go to the bathroom area where there's like a hall, and we meet in the hall, we shake hands, we do the whole movie thing where he gives me the drugs in my hand, then I shake hands with him and I give him the money, and we part ways. I then go to the bathroom, get high as a fucking kite, go back, my friends have no idea. So this is kind of how it got started. For the rest of the time that I had this problem, I'd say it was maybe like 6 months, and it wasn't a very long time because this whole time, while I was getting very high, I was very aware that something was up. Like, in no time of this happening was I like, I'm fine, you know, like it never was like that. So pretty much for the next couple of months, I was getting high every single day, before school, during my break at school, after school, sometimes at night when I wasn't even going out, which is the stupidest fucking thing because I'd get super fucking high and then I wouldn't be able to sleep. So then I'd have to take a lot of sleeping pills to sleep, and then the next morning I would wake up and get high again. And it got to the point where I was consuming like, you know, 7 grams in like 2 days, which is a lot. And it's expensive too. So at one point, nobody knew about this, not even my friends. I just tell my mom, I'm like, Mom, I have a problem. Like, this is not okay. I'd lied to my mom to get money in order to pay for it. I'd say that it was people's birthday so I could get money to buy them a bottle of champagne. I'd not spend that money on champagne. So I was like, Mom, I have a problem. We had another movie moment. We dumped all of it, the 2 grams left, into the toilet. And then my mom was like, maybe you should go see your aunt for a while. So I go to Italy for a week, and my mom kind of underestimated it in the sense that she knows that I'm a responsible kid generally. So she just thought it was like a wild moment. She didn't see the extent to which the problem went. So she sent me to my aunt's. I got super fucking stoned because I hid 1 bag from my mom when we dumped everything. I got super fucking high right before getting on a 13-hour flight, which was miserable. I get to my aunt's, and that week is low-key fucking horrific because I'm obviously having a lot of withdrawals, like I'm sleeping horribly, I'm fucking sweating all the time. So that week passes pretty fast, and then it's time for me to go home. So as soon as I land in Shanghai, I get this nauseous feeling, this feeling of like, what the fuck am I doing back here? And I knew it was bad because as soon as my airplane landed, I messaged my dealer and was like, hey, are you available? So as soon as I touched down, it was like nothing had changed. It's just like I'd taken a vacation, and then I was back to my old groove of like, let's get fucked up. So that same night when I arrived, I told my mom I was going out with my friends. I wasn't meeting any of my friends. I literally just went to meet my dealer, got God knows how much, and left. And yeah, I mean, after that, A couple days in, I told my mom, look, I can't stay here. I told her mentally I can't do it. I can't be in a place where it's so easy for me to get drugs. And a lot of the people I was hanging out with weren't even drug type people. It's just like every so often at a party, I'd go with my friend and there would be someone we didn't know who actually had drugs and came to offer them. So it wasn't like the people I was hanging out with. It's just like the parties generally would always have that one person who would ask. And I was like, I don't want to put myself in this position. So in the end, what happened was that I went to Italy for a number of months. Like I just didn't come back to Shanghai. I just left that university in like the middle of the year. I didn't even tell people I was leaving or why I was leaving. I hid it for a long time. I only told a couple of my friends what was going on, and that was after. Nobody knew in the meantime. Like I'm a shady bitch if I want to be. No one will know what is going the fuck on. So I went to my aunt's. I stayed there. Obviously in Italy, I didn't really have any contacts. I didn't really like I didn't know anyone who lived in Turin anyways. So I was pretty much with my aunt all the time. And I pretty much just kicked it by being there with my aunt. Like that was how I kicked the habit. And, you know, sometimes people might want to ask, why didn't you go to rehab? You know, why didn't you enter a program? And to be quite frank, I didn't want to enter a program because I knew that would affect my applying to schools and my applying for a green card, because they do ask you that. And I'm not saying that you're going to get rejected because you went to rehab, but it's like, I didn't want to add something in my way, because getting a visa to already go to school was a fucking hassle. And I was like, I don't want to put something extra in my way. So I convinced myself that I could do it by myself. And I'm not saying everyone can do this or it works for every drug. Like by no means, if you can go to rehab, I'd say go. But I decided to not go. So I just stayed with my aunt. So I got over it in a kind of weird way. I know it's very rare to just get over it like that. I did have a lot of horrific kind of side effects from it. And eventually, shortly after this is when I actually OD'd. So it's not like I got over it and it was clean. It was like I got over it, but then things were still kind of fucked up, and then I OD'd on painkillers. So it wasn't like a clean break, but yeah. So I don't want to be the type of person who's like, don't do drugs, man, because I'm pretty sure we all know that you're not really supposed to do them and that it's not generally good for you. Like unless you're using weed for medical reasons or just using weed, do whatever. But all I'm saying is don't underestimate what using once can do to you, because, you know, like if I'd never used that one time, none of this probably would have happened. And I'm not regretting it or anything, because regrets are useless, but I'm just saying just don't underestimate things. And as much as it's annoying to hear parents say like, oh, drugs are bad for you, they are bad for you, but the more important thing to consider is how that might affect your future, because I was lucky to get out of it when I did, and I was lucky that my mom understood and helped me out in the way that she did. And not everyone is that lucky, like especially with drugs like heroin, you know, just a couple of times can be the end of it for you. So just be very critical of what you choose to do with your body and take accountability for it. And I know that once I told my mom, she actually tried to take the blame for it, saying, you know, like, I obviously haven't been paying enough attention to you, like you know, I should have known. And the reality is, no, she shouldn't have known, because I was 19, I was partying, I was very good at hiding things, I never showed any symptoms around her. So I took accountability because it is on me entirely. And I think that once you do take that accountability, it's easier to begin to deal with whatever you need to do, whether it's rehab, whether it's leaving and going to be with someone else so you're not around certain types of people. Yeah, I'm sorry this was kind of long-winded. If you guys have more questions, or if I forgot to mention anything, let me know. Yeah, I hope that this was somewhat helpful. I know my story isn't very typical and it's kind of weird, but I thought I would just tell you guys. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think as usual, and I'll catch you next time.